So, welcome to our third edition of Sunday School, where we are raising money for a guaranteed basic income pilot in North Nashville. Now, it's a couple things that's different between ours and all the other pilots that are popping up across the country. First of all, we are working to get this done with people power. So, we're the only pilot in the country where the people are facilitating the program, the people are funding the program, and guess what? The people are going to claim the win. The other thing, is, and I want to make sure we mention this, is we root our guaranteed basic income in history, in the narrative of the damage and the effects of white supremacy, anti-black policies, and other things that actually demolished a whole community of black folks in Nashville and in 37208. But what we're doing with the guaranteed basic income, we are providing an opportunity to rebuild black communities in a very intentional way, and we are also organizing for the self-determination of those black people that are struggling with poverty right now. This is an intentional action against poverty and the decades of anti-black and racist institutions that have harmed black communities in Nashville. So you might be asking yourself, how are we going to disrupt poverty using a guaranteed basic income? And we got three very specific ways. One, Moving Nashville Forward will create a guaranteed basic income pilot that invests in the people of North Nashville for 1 year. Two, we're going to track that impact with research, so we're going to deliver a report. And three, we're going to publish those findings as a roadmap for other communities to get this done in their area. And if you're rocking with that, and I'm going to ask the studio audience to make some noise right now so y'all know that we're not in here by ourselves. So once again, this is a fundraiser, right? So if you're moved by anything that you hear today, I'm asking for you to donate. Once again, we are doing this with the people's dollars. This is people's driven. We don't have a millionaire. We don't have a company behind us, but we have the people. So if you can give $5, $10, $100, $1,000, $10,000 to help our families and our communities that are struggling with poverty, please do so. If you ever feel moved throughout this, do that. Also, share the stream. Share it up. Please share it up. And I also want to say today what we're talking about is how a guaranteed basic income can fix or can be applied to help fix our housing crisis. But you know we have the culture here. So coming up first, and an illustrious guest, I want to introduce Simba the Poet.
What's good, family? What's good, community? My name is Simba the Poet, also known as Simba the Leak. I'm a black trans poet here from Nashville, Tennessee. 3728, be my love. Okay, so I'm gonna do 3 short poems for y'all. I like to give little content warnings before my poems. Common theme: gun violence, death of black folks, death of queer and trans folks. With some like religious, speakings in there, but I promise I'm not trying to convert anybody. So, the first poem I'm gonna read or spit is called Savior. Sometimes gunshots and prayers are one and the same. Both cried by victim and victimizer, hands clutched in preparation to seek salvation, no precise destination for delivery. If a gunshot is sounded off in the middle of Jefferson Street and no one is around to hear it, does a shooter still exist? If a prayer is cried out in the middle of a courtroom, does God distinguish between the messenger? I held a bullet in my hands like a Bible verse once. Found it on the sidewalk, dropped to my knees to pick it up and wondered who had missed. Kept it secret in my palms like a prayer or a wish. I've noticed that a bullet and a holy message can reach the body in the same amount of seconds. Have you ever tried to decipher the soul's language of tongue while exiting the body? It sounds the same in a church as it does under a street light. Sounds the same after an officer's command as it does after a fight for survival. I don't know who to pray to anymore. Don't know what protection feels like anymore from an officer, a God, or a gun. Yes. Okay. I know I'm a bit heavy in my poetry, y'all, but it's going to get heavier. So I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. The second poem that I'm going to read for y'all is actually one of my new babies. Hasn't been spit before, so this is for y'all. No title yet. I'm terrified for my children to ask me what God looks like and why God would allow a neighborhood to be eaten, sliced, and left for forgotten. What happens when a city dies and a home looks like a mirrored image of a cemetery, looks more like exploitation after a hurricane, looks more like a hurricane, and North Nashville is a museum. I wish I took more pictures before the ruins, time capsuled every memory in Salem Town and Nashville. A man can lose his home in a tornado, can live under a bridge and lose that home too. If a city dies after being gutted for pay, it's called murder, followed by a mourning of a people that didn't deserve such loss. And if a city government pays for the destruction of a lineage, it's called assassination. If a people can attempt to take a city back, it's called hope. And right now, that's all we have left to give. Okay, this is my last poem that I'm going to share with y'all this afternoon. It's one of my favorites, a favorite of my supporters. It's called It Must Be the Devil, Part 1, after Amiri Baraka's Dope. The sun shined ever so beautifully over the surface of minority bodies, the sun. Ever so graciously fed the soil above the surface of minority bodies, minority bodies, so it must be the devil. The privileged mistake minority for inferior bodies, so it must be the devil. Our safe travels via Amistad on the way to freedom, so it must be the devil. They kill girls in high school bathrooms. They kill brown boys on playgrounds. They mock sunsets, set my son's time. It must be the devil. It must be the devil. It must be the devil, because God don't look like this. God don't look like grieving sunrises, don't smell like plague, don't taste like salt, don't sound like trials in Salem. They want our kids. It must be the devil. Her soul went viral. Saw it running from her tainted body. Witness hella witnesses, witness her suffering. I didn't see God, so it must be the devil. I saw his soul reluctant to touch the sky, yet wasn't so sure that God would be there. They don't believe pastor no more, so it must be the devil. They follow pastor. They forgot that God was the leader, so it must be the devil. It must be the devil. It must be the devil. Whoa, whoa. They took Sandra, tried to give her back, showed us with a light, left her with a life, left her, gave us her mugshot. Thought we would forget how beautiful the black woman is. She black don't crack, but my black hurts, so it must be the devil. We don't know if it ain't viral, so it must be the devil. Mass murder, whoa, it must be the devil. Orlando, 49, my brother, my sister, one shooter, one body, no soul, no home, caused terror, no terrorist, just lost. Whose fault? It must be the devil. The youngest one was younger than me, so it must be the devil. God, must we all die before we see heaven? I mean, if the devil works more, I pray that you work bigger. Whoa, whoa, it must be capitalism. Thank y'all so much.
Give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up. Shout out to Simba The Poet. Make sure y'all check him out. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, thank you for that, thank you for that, thank you for that, thank you for that. Now I also want to invite you again. You can join this movement. Donate. Any little thing can help. We are bringing a guaranteed basic income pilot to North Nashville to address some of the things that Simba The Poet just brought up. But before we get into it and real fast, I just want the studio audience to repeat after me. We will win. We will win. And a guaranteed basic income is a part of that win, and also housing is. So my two guests right now are community organizers that do housing work in Nashville, and that's very important to mention because we all know that Nashville is going through a housing crisis right now. And no matter where you are across the country, you are probably going through a housing crisis locally as well. So what we're going to talk about right now is specific to Nashville, but also can be applied across the country. So the two organizers that are here today, if you can just introduce yourself, pronoun, and just talk briefly about your work.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jackie Sims. My pronouns are she, her, hers. and I am with PATHE. I am the lead organizer, executive director, I prefer lead organizer. And I'm connected with quite a few organizations in Nashville, but my first love, the thing that I'm most passionate about is housing. The lack of housing, the housing inequity that exists in the city of Nashville right now, a city that is failing miserably in addressing what we need, especially we as Black and brown people in Nashville today.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Give it a hand clap for Jackie. Give it a hand. Thank you for joining us, Jackie. Dynamite. Dynamite.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cecilia Prado. I use she, her pronouns. And I am the co-director at Workers Dignity Worker Center. We are a worker-led center based in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you. We organize around issues that affect the working class. I primarily focus around my people, which are Latinx and indigenous immigrants. Most of my time I spent organizing construction workers in Nashville because, you know, Nashville is growing really, really fast. It's gentrifying. And developers have all the power and workers have none. So this is one of the most dangerous or the most dangerous city in the country to work in construction. So that's usually where I'm at. And it's usually my people who work in construction. I didn't consider myself a housing advocate before or a housing organizer, but recently I have been involved supporting the Mosaic Warriors campaign. The Mosaic Warriors are a tenant union at Mosaic Apartments in South Nashville who are organizing against the illegal eviction of 89 or more of their families. About a month ago, most of the families received a phone call telling them that they had to leave and evacuate their places in 3 days. With lies, harassment, and intimidation, and despite all that, the Mosaic Warriors organized, they fought back, and now they are not getting evicted.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's it.
Great. Thank y'all for that. And I want to honor you all's power in getting those wins. But if we can talk about, and I think you all kind of went there, if we can talk about how we got here, what were the steps, what happened? Briefly, because I know that's a large conversation.
Yeah, that's a
but if you could just
question.
pick out maybe like one or two things that y'all see as what got us to the point of the housing crisis that we're experiencing in Nashville.
Well, the first thing I have to say is it is not by accident. And it's not just Nashville. What we see is happening literally across every major city in the nation. The laws that have been in existence, local laws, state laws, federal laws, all have been designed to get us where we are today. This is definitely by intention, and it will take an equal amount of intention on the part of the people to reverse the level of housing inequity that we see in the city of Nashville and across the nation. And last thing I want to say is cities like Nashville use a lot of Black lawmakers, people that look like me. They become complicit in the problem. I wonder sometime, are they students of history? Do they understand actually what has taken place? Clearly, they're not reading. They're not aware of history, because if they were, they wouldn't be making a lot of decisions that they do today.
And I'm curious what you're about to say, Cecilia, but I did want to mention real fast, I was reading somewhere where they were like, poverty isn't an accident, it's a legislation failure. It's a failure in actual policy. So I think it's important that what you just said there, but Cecilia,
I think it's about power, and if we're really gonna go all the way back, we can talk about colonization and how that like put value on certain lives over others, over other lives. But also just it's just a failure to address the power imbalance by the people that claim to be on our side, right? This is about power. Colonization was about power, and this is still about power.
Yes.
It's always been about power. So if we're not actually addressing power and really understanding where the power of us in our side, in the side of freedom, if we're not really addressing where our power lays, it's our people. That's our power.
For
If
sure.
we try, If we try to fight with money in the legislation and play by our opponent's tactics, we're gonna lose.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for saying, Cecilia. So I'm going to go back to you because I think you just got right here. Can you paint what the housing crisis looks like right now?
So Nashville is a city that is rapidly gentrifying, right? Like the development market hasn't been established in a place like New York City or like San Francisco, where we're seeing a very established market. And at the same time, we do have the worst worker rights laws in the whole country. The most amount of state laws that really prevent us from passing policies to improve worker rights. So just imagine that component, right? Imagine getting to a point where we're actually as developed as like a city like New York City or San Francisco with these kinds of worker rights that we have going on in Tennessee. Right now, we're seeing different pockets of our cities being completely displaced. Where we're looking at Mosaic apartments, it's what has happened in North Nashville, for example, where like they're just trying to develop and kick out our people. The Chestnut Hill area of Nashville is already at the point where it's almost too late. Yeah. People are already being displaced. Just go take a look. The next area that we're seeing is the new target of developers is the area where Mosaic Apartment is, which is that pocket in between the intersection with Murfreesboro and Thompson Lane. This is where the Day Laborers Corner is, and this is where most of the immigrant population live in Nashville. And they're being displaced.
Thank you for that.
Yes, July is going to be an extremely significant work around housing. We're looking at probably every bit of 7,000 people that may be going through the court system. And people are terrified. Unfortunately, a lot of people who are required to go to court will not show up because they're living in fear. But that's actually the worst thing that they can do. We're hoping to get as many people as possible to court so that we can intervene in some capacity, and that's the only way that we can do that. We filled the courtrooms right now with quite a few court watchers, and the judges are paying attention to the decisions that are being made. So we need people, all the 7,000 plus people who are out in Nashville right now, please, please show up at court. We have people there to assist you, that will help you through the process and can possibly keep you in the housing that you're presently in. Mm-hmm. But we're in an extreme crisis right now with the number of persons that are going to be going through court for the next 4 weeks and longer.
I think something dope that both of you all just kind of talked about and built a line through is power, like people power. And I want to mention that the Guaranteed Basic Income pilot that has us all here today is centered in people power, yes. Right? We're taking our time, we're explaining to you all, we're teaching folks what a guaranteed basic income can do, and we're raising it in the right way. We're raising the pilot and the political consciousness in the right way. And across our country, like Ms. Jackie, like what you just talked about, is housing is at a crisis across our country. And in other areas, I think we were talking about before we walked in here, they are using a guaranteed basic income, which is a set amount of direct cash with no strings attached, to make up for issues in housing. I think Oakland is doing that, but in Nashville, our elected officials and our legislators are not going about it that way, right? So if we can talk about what it would look like, or how could a guaranteed basic income, if your people that you are organizing with on the ground were able to get a certain amount of money, unrestricted, to make up for the low wages, to make up for the high rent, what would that look like on the ground?
Well, the first thing I want to say, and I feel very strongly about this, when you look at the history of what Black folk have done to build the wealth that this nation now possesses, America owes Black folk.
Come on. Come on.
America owes black folk a debt that they can never repay.
Come on,
but
talk
they
about
can
it.
start with reparations in the form of guaranteed basic income. The first thing I want to look at is post-World War II, America rolled out the red carpet to build wealth for American white families.
Yep, come on.
Black folk were denied.
Come on.
That same generational wealth has been used to educate their children in colleges and universities. We have to pay loans.
Yep.
So when it's time for a lot of our young people who are graduating from college and they're preparing to buy a house, they can't buy a house because of the income ratio. It's those student loans because there was no generational wealth. So whatever form guaranteed basic income should come in for people of Nashville, especially black folk, they deserve it.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything Jackie just said. I also think that it's important to know that like where the government spends its money, where anybody spends its money, it talks about the decision and the values and that the government is putting, right? Like I wonder, I haven't done the math about like how much it will take to actually accomplish like universal basic income, but I wonder if it's as expensive as the millions of dollars that companies and corporations are getting in tax incentives, so they're coming here. Nashville is such a desirable location for all these like Fortune 500 companies to put their headquarters in, to not pay taxes, to completely destroy our neighborhoods. And then we're seeing the full like City Council of Nashville approving the Oracle project with just such a minimal amount of like affordable housing that they're planning to build. I think that was so offensive. So I think it's something necessary, it's something that our people deserve, it's something that also folks who do not have a social security number should also be able to access, since they are the people that are also building this city and building our high rises and building all these nice luxury apartments where so many people who oppress and have oppressed for centuries are living in. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah, please give it up. Please give it up. So this idea around reparations comes up a lot, and I think it's important, especially when we're talking about 37208, there is a debt owed, right? Last week we talked about the interstate displacing folks, causing 80% of black businesses to close. We also know that 37208 has one of the highest incarceration rates in the country, so we know that the people there are owed. Right? But I want to make a distinction real fast, both for the people that are listening, both in studio and at home, is a $10,000 isn't enough for reparations.
No.
But with a guaranteed basic income, at least we can intentionally start stepping that direction and having that conversation and studying what it looks like. And this idea of corporations and rich people come up often too, which is interesting because we already give corporations and rich people a guaranteed basic income. We call it a tax subsidy, right? It's only when we start talking about giving poor people money where these ideas and these tropes and these racist indignations about poor people and the way they spend their money and it being a personal failure and all of those things, and losing track that the system is actually intentionally putting us in conditions that leave us in poverty. Miss Jackie, you look like you're about to say
something. I'm just itching over here. It just slays me how long and how much America really has practiced socialism. When it comes to poor folk, black folk, brown folk, you know, socialism is an evil thing. But they've been practicing socialism in this country with wealthy people forever and a day. But they don't have any problems with that.
For sure, for sure. And thank you for that. Cecilia, you look like you're about to say something?
I mean, it is intentional. When you're thinking about like the corporations that are getting the tax subsidies, let's ask them how much they pay their workers.
Right, right.
If they pay their workers, because if you are actually like organizing construction workers on a daily basis, we see folks that don't get paid at all.
Right.
If you know Armando, he built a middle school and he wasn't paid for it. And we're seeing that like the value of a person that is generating jobs is so high. Like we talk about like this, we should be giving tax subsidies to corporations because they create jobs, but like what kind of jobs, and who is actually like building our cities? I have a lot more to say, but I'll just.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I do want to mention, this is where Martin Luther King was going before he was assassinated. And it's something that he said that was very profound. It's a guaranteed basic income is a direct action against poverty. And I think a lot of the things that we're talking about, a guaranteed basic income, can be a direct action towards those things. But what I'm curious about is, how do we make guaranteed basic income, this pilot here in Nashville, how do we make that accessible to everyone? People who are forced to encounter the criminal legal system, people of different immigrant status, how do we make a guaranteed basic income accessible for every single person who is both intentionally put in poverty, but also struggling with something like housing?
I'm really not certain about the logistics, but I'll say this. First of all, the level of poverty that so many people are experiencing, especially in 37208, is a form of violence. It really is. And the need for the level of policing that we do in that particular zip code, a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's been no investment in the people. No investment in the people, no investment in the schools that are in 37208, no investment in making sure that people are in appropriate good housing, no investment in the neighborhood in terms of green spaces, things being planted, things that are conducive and strengthening to people's mental health. So I know this, the city finds a way to do whatever it wants to do, whatever it wants to build, whatever it wants to bring here to Nashville. It finds the money, it finds a way. So as I said earlier, logistically, I'm not sure exactly what the guaranteed basic income would look like, but I know that we can get it done because it gets everything else done that it wants to do. So we need the city to invest in people that historically it is only divested from, generation after generation after generation.
Thank you for that, Ms. Jackie.
And I do want to make the point that investment is only one aspect of, or lack of investment is only one aspect of the housing crisis.
Yep.
I think another big component of the housing crisis is a tenant rights crisis, right? That we're seeing. A lack of power at the policy level that is really preventing us from like really get what we need and what we want and what we deserve. I think it's really hard for so many tenants that we've spoken to, like many folks that are at Mosaic Apartments, right? Like we ask, like, why are you putting up? Like they have been putting up with years and years of maintenance, neglect, harassment, violent harassment of the management using the cops to threatening them every time they're asking for maintenance repairs. And then you just wonder, like, why are you here, right? And they're paying like $1,200 for like a 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. It's an incredible amount of money. But the thing is, so many folks at Mosaic Apartments, like either some folks may not have a social security number, right? Which is a huge obstacle to actually like get through the application processes of many apartments. Some folks might have a criminal record, which is also like a huge obstacle. Other folks might not have a good credit score, which like most apartments, if you're applying, they ask you for a credit score. So I think that if we're gonna create a model that is actually radical and is actually what we need here in Nashville, where the laws don't favor us, I think we need to include folks who have previously been incarcerated. We have to include folks who are homeless right now. We have to include folks that might not have a social security number. I think that is incredibly important because we're dealing not just with a lack of investment, but with a tenants' rights crisis and a lack of accessibility.
And that's important, too, that we talk about, because sometimes even with the guaranteed basic income model that we're talking about bringing to 37208, the reason why I even found this is because of going through the tornado right? And experiencing community members that were not eligible for the traditional FEMA and
Right.
things like that because they were tenants, they were renters. And then also struggling through no one talking about a guaranteed basic income being a solution when it has been done in Tennessee in response to a natural disaster, and then also thinking through, well, that was in Sevier County, where we know the majority of those people are white folks. And so it was just like, yo, why are we not talking about giving these people who have their homes destroyed by a tornado and a natural disaster a guaranteed basic income, which is way easier than anything else that we can possibly give them? Jackie, you like you was about to say something.
Yeah, I was thinking about who are the essential workers here in Nashville. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them are Black and brown persons. I believe very strongly in the power of nonviolent resistance. What would the city do if all these essential workers in the hotels, in the restaurants, all providing services to the tourists that the city depends so heavily on for their revenue, what would they do one day if nobody showed up to fucking work? Nobody. What would they do? Nobody came to fucking work one day, maybe 2 days. You think we'd have some power then? Yeah, we'd have some power.
For sure.
So, you know, there are things that we can do if we come together, we exercise a little creativity. There are things we can do to apply pressure to a city that does not want to serve all of its people, only some of its people.
For sure. For sure. For sure.
And to Jackie's point, the reason why this country is so hypocritical in the way they treat one another is because it's funded on white supremacy. And therefore, us as the people cannot keep playing by the rules of the system, right? In order to actually get what we want, we have to organize, we have to know where their power comes from, we have to know who puts food on their table, and then we have to jeopardize that and create a crisis.
So
for
talk
them.
about what a win would look like. Talk about what a win, getting our folks on a guaranteed basic income, getting them $10,000 unrestricted cash over the span of 10 to 12 months. What would that look like? What would that win look like for the people of Nashville who have been struggling so much, and struggling not only due to intentionality, but the lack of action?
Yeah.
So if we can talk about what would that win look like?
That would be a game changer. A lot of people fall out of housing literally for a few $100s. I mean, literally pennies. So the amount of stress and oppression and fear and terror that would be alleviated from people would be tremendous. The wear and tear, there is, what's her name? I forget her name, but weathering. The fact that people don't have a measly $10,000, and that's not a lot of money, but for persons who are struggling, who are suffering, that's a game changer. That could change everything. It would reduce crime, it would improve health, quality of life. There's a lot that 10,000 could begin to do as an investment in people's lives. And we can start by the governor at the end of this month, who plans on removing, what is it, the $300 additional that people are getting, you know, since we've been in this COVID crisis. And he's also sitting on quite a bit of money, you know, that could go into the lives, the families of persons that are in 37208.
I think it will mean not being houseless. Right now, we are experiencing a wave of mass evictions all around Nashville. People are getting evicted from their trailers. Like having to move out of a trailer park, for example, costs like $5,500. That number is specific, but that's how much it costs. And so many people that are currently getting evicted out of trailer parks, for example, have to just lose their homes, have to lose everything they own. Folks that are being asked to leave with a 3-day notice or 1-week notice, which we know is happening all across Nashville, those folks will actually be able to find a new place to live. This is something that is urgent right now for people, and also it would mean that some of our folks will actually get to stay in Nashville, in the city they built, the city they've lived in for generations. That means a lot. That means a lot for us and for our movement and for the future that those of us on the freedom side are supposed to believe in.
Thank you. And I want to reach back as we round this corner and as we prepare to send off to something else. I'm curious, though, when we talk about it, because I organize with y'all all the time. So I know y'all are hopeful. So if you can talk about what you're hopeful for. Anything. What keeps you hopeful, what you're hopeful for, anything in that direction. Because I think it's important to know, like, we are talking about organizing to get rid of poverty. We're talking about that right now, right? We're talking about a gradual step, but that is the long-term win, is that every person has dignified housing, everybody's making a dignified wage, and everybody has what they need to both survive and thrive. So just talk a bit about what keeps you hopeful.
Well, my faith keeps me hopeful. That is what grounds me in this work. I'm hopeful for this fundraiser, that it can begin to generate the funds that are needed to make a difference in some of the families' lives in 37208. I'm hopeful that we can begin to better educate people in our communities in 37208 as to what their true value is. America has a wretched way of devaluing, sending messages to people that cause them not to believe in themselves and what their worth is. So I'm hoping that occasions like this, gatherings like the Black Nashville Assembly and Nashville People's Budget, we will have a town hall meeting tonight for PATHE. I'm hoping that all these entities will begin to lift people up, help them understand that you are valuable, which is why we're fighting so hard, to do the things that we're doing so there can be investment in our people's lives.
One thing that is keeping me hopeful right now, sometimes that answer changes, but I think that one thing that has been amazing this past month has been to organize with these amazing folks, the Mosaic Warriors. Please check out their campaign. Mosaic Warriors, they're amazing. They're fire and they're winning, and they're showing all of Nashville how, all of Nashville tenants, how they too can fight and stand up against a corporate slumlord and actually win and get some real wins. And that all comes because of community. So many folks in Mosaic actually do want to stay, and you ask them what about there's so much management harasses you every day, you are in everything that has been going on. Why do you want to stay? And they're I love this community. I love my people. Folks have my back here. And you see that, right? And that's something that capitalism has made us forget, and takes away all opportunity that we have to build real community with each other, which is the only way that we're actually gonna form power. Because remember, our power is the people, and to build power, we need community.
For sure. So I think Cecilia's getting to something, and I want to invite you on this camera, and I want to invite everyone here to organize with us, to get a guaranteed basic income in Nashville. 1, 2, to organize with us to build a base for a guaranteed basic income, and 3, to organize with us so that we have a transfer of power so our people can get what they need. So first, I would like to thank our guest. Right now, we're about to kick it to a video. This video is a very simple explainer around our guaranteed basic income pilot coming to North Nashville. And then right after that, we have a great performance coming from Allison Russell. So stay tuned, stay there. We're coming back to you soon.
North Nashville is Nashville's soul. And Nashville dead-ended it when it built Interstate 40 through its heart. Moving Nashville Forward is launching a guaranteed basic income pilot to disrupt poverty in our city. Starting in the 37208 zip code, North Nashville, where we can begin to address this harm. The interstate permanently scarred and isolated the area. 80% of Black-owned businesses in Nashville closed as a result, devastating it economically and creating the conditions of poverty there today. North Nashville has an average income of less than half of Nashville's living wage. Families are struggling with the impact of decades of over-policing, the aftermath of a tornado, and rapid gentrification. They lack access to jobs that pay a living wage, healthcare, and social services. We can change this by investing in the people of North Nashville. Like similar experiments in this country and around the world, the 37208 demonstration will offer direct cash transfers and track their impact on people and the community. For a family living in poverty, this means the ability to pay bills on time, to put food on the table, and to keep young people off the streets. It means the ability to plan for the future. With enough resources and support, we can begin to end poverty, starting in North Nashville. The 37208 demonstration will make North Nashville and Davidson County a model for a more prosperous future. Our findings will provide a roadmap to repeating this experiment and a plan to create more equitable cities. We can disrupt poverty in North Nashville and restore Nashville's soul. Support the 37208 demonstration by donating today.
Yeah, I'm a midnight ride, stone border, fire night flight. I'm an angel of the morning too. Promise that the dawn will bring you. I'm the melody and the space between every note the swallow sings. I'm 14 vultures circling. I'm that crawling, dying thing on the smoke up above the trees, good Lord. The fire in the branch that's burning, Lord. Maybe you were sleeping, Lord, but maybe she's not weeping no more, no. Ooh, yeah, I'm a midnight rider, stone border, fire night flyer. The sick light of a hurricane's eye. I'm a violent lullaby. I'm 6 fireflies, 1 street light. I'm a suffocating summer night. Ooh. And I'm each of his steps on the stairway, his shadow in the door frame. I'm the tap-tap of a lunar moth. I'm the stale beer on his breath. His soul is trapped in that room, but I crept back in my mother's womb. I came back out with my gold and my greens. Now I see everything. Now I feel everything. Good Lord, what the hell could they bring to stop me, Lord? from the sea. Night of God Almighty, there I'm a midnight rider. So mortified, not fire. I'm an angel of the morning too. Promise at the dawn will bring you. I'm the wounded bird, I'm the screaming hawk, I'm the one who can't be counted out. I'm the dove thrown into battle, I can roll and shake and rattle. Ooh. I'm the moon's dark side, I'm the solar flare, the child of the earth, the child of the air. I am the mother of the evening star, I am the love that conquers all. Yeah, I'm a midnight rider, so mortified, not fire. I'm an angel of the morning too. Promise that the dawn will bring you. Yeah, I'm a midnight rider, so mortified, not fire. I'm an angel of the morning too. Promise that the dawn will bring you.
Yeah, I have to say, this is such an inspiring gathering today. And thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you so much, Cecilia, for your wisdom. And this entire organization, this is a revolutionary, long overdue movement. And we will win. We will win. Something that you said, Jackie, that just hit me so hard as a Canadian living here in this country, and this notion that socialism is a bad word, but it's not socialism if it's a tax break for a massive multinational corporation underpaying workers. Somehow that's not socialism, but it's socialism to lift people up out of poverty who've been purposefully put there. And we know the lie, and your wisdom, the wisdom of so many of our teachers, and the fact that we can now connect with each other. As much as I sometimes curse the social media experiment, I bless it on a day like today, because how else did we find each other? How else did we create this movement? And not we, I'm not taking credit, but I'm just proud to be here with you all, standing with you all, and doing whatever I can do to contribute. And just thank y'all for what you're doing. We are not what we've lost. We are all more than the sum of our scars. We are infinitely powerful when we work together. The only reason that I survived my childhood was because of the community of loving artists that I found who took me in. I was raised by violently abusive white supremacists, and I had to run from my home at 15 years old because it was safer sleeping in a cemetery than it was in that house. So this is called Fourth Day Prayer, and this is proof to anyone listening right now. If you are trapped in a situation like that, take the leap, find the one person you trust, get out of there, and it gets better, I promise.
I was the queen of Westmount Park. It was all 9 after dark. Old willow tree, it was my throne till I went home. Father used me like a wife. Mother turned the blindest eye. Stole my body, spirit, pride. He did each night. It's one for the hate that loops and loops, 2 for the poison at the roots, 3 for the children breaking through, 4 for the day standing in the sun. Ooh, ooh, ooh. These are the best years of your life. If I believed it, I'd have died. Something told me that they lied. Oh, I survived. Left home, I was just a child. Slept in the graveyard under the mouth. When the sun came up and found my skin, I rose again. It's one for the hate that loops and loops, 2 for the poison at the roots, 3 for the children breaking through, 4 for the day we're standing in the sun. Ooh, slipstreams and fever dreams. Do you see what I can't see? Well, tell me, I want to understand. From the coast of Africa to the hills of Grenada to the cold of Montreal, that whip still falls. It's one for the hate that loops and loops, 2 for the poison at the roots, 3 for the children breaking through, 4 for the day we're standing in the sun. Ooh, 2 for the poison at the roots, 3 for the children breaking through, 4 for the day. Ooh, hey, 2 for the poison at the roots, 3 for the children breaking through, 4 for the day. Thank you. I have one last song for you all, and I'm so proud to be here today at Sunday school, gleaning wisdom and courage and inspiration and hope from all of you, and just sending everybody out there so much love. Please donate generously to Moving Nashville Forward and this incredible initiative to establish a basic income, to establish housing security for 37208. The city was built on the backs of 37208. So let's do this. We can do this together. Community, education, coalition. The coalition of the willing and the loving, the truthful and the brave. The oldest trick in the white supremacist, patriarchal, misogynist, homophobic, on and on playbook is to divide and conquer. We're not divided. We have common cause. Everybody deserves dignity. Everybody deserves a home. Everybody deserves safe food and clean water to drink. Equally human, all equally human or none. This is called All of the Women. She's been a fixture long as I lived here on the corner most every night for the last 6 years. When she's not there, when she's not there, when she's not there, I worry about her. Think of all of the women, all of the women, all of the women who disappear. We made friendly acquaintance. Sometimes we talk. She likes the way that I smile and sing as I walk. I like her fabulous outfits, proud when she moves. She says I used to be a dancer. Some grace you don't lose, some grace you don't lose. For the way I survive, I make no apology. Everybody, somebody, don't always meet up. I'm the salvation for those left without, living small lives that provide can't be measured in nickels and dimes, in nickels and dimes. I ask, what about the bad days? Don't you ever get scared? I've had my share, honey, but it's fear I can bear. It's fear I can bear. I'm stronger than eggshells. I'm tougher than love. Never been despised so much or hit so high, or hit so high. I couldn't get back up. 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 She's been a fixture long as I lived here on the corner most every night for the last 6 years. When she's not there, when she's not there, when she's not there, I worry about her. Think of all of the women, 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 all of the women who disappear, disappear.
Ross, Megan Elizabeth McCormick. I'm Allison Russell. Moving Forward Nashville. Moving Nashville Forward. Thank you, Third Man Records, for having us all.
Yes, yes, yes. Give it up to him. 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 Thank you, Allison. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. So once again, we are here, right? This is a fundraiser. We are here raising money for guaranteed basic income for North Nashville. So we got a couple of dates to keep in mind. Also, follow us on all social media at Nashville Forward. We need organization if we're going to address the needs of our people. So join us in Moving Nashville Forward. So we have a Zoom fundraiser on July 8th. Move your friends. Bring your friends to that place. We'll have a presentation. We'll talk about it more. We have our next Sunday School edition, July 25th. Right here, we're going to talk about restoring dignity. We're going to have some more community organizers. We also have another fundraiser August 12th and another Sunday School August 29th. Once again, join us. Shout out to Simba The Poet. Shout out to Allison. Shout out to Jackie Sims. Give it up for Cecilia. Let's give it up for everybody. Move with us. We're doing something powerful. See you next time.